Welcome to the Mockingcast, the podcast of Mockingbird Ministries. I'm David Zoll, your host, and in a few moments, I'll be joined by my co-hosts, Sarah Condon and RJ Heyman. We come to you every other week to discuss a few of the places where we currently see grace and its absence playing out in unexpected and compelling ways. We're glad to have you with us.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. God.
Well, I can't get over it. We have gotten to December. We're in the Advent season. We're closing in on Christmas. This is the penultimate Mockingcast episode of the year. We'll do one more. But what's happening, you two? Sarah, any important updates to share?
Yes. I had a really scary mammogram a couple weeks ago, well, like a month ago, and I've just been convinced that like my family only has tragedy in December. So I was like, well, here we go. And I went in a few days ago, and turns out, ladies, you can just have fluid pockets in your boob that are just like look like a thing but aren't a thing. This is our medical moment. But I'm healthy, and gosh, that feels so good to not be like preparing for some other awful thing this time of year. Are you kidding? So yeah, like thank God, such a blessing. Yeah, I'm just so grateful right now. Like I feel like I'm just riding that high for a while. So it's good.
Really glad to hear that, Sarah.
Yeah.
Didn't you do something else kind of dangerous?
Yeah.
Sarah, recently.
Oh, I got a tattoo. Yeah, I got a tattoo of my husband's name on my arm. Yeah, in New Orleans. Yeah.
That's a lot of commitment. I don't know. I guess you're in for the long haul.
And I was mad at him like 36 hours later. And I was like, gosh, this is marriage, you know? Like his name's literally on my arm now. No,
Wow.
it feels like, yeah, several people have like been like, like his name, that's kind of permanent. I'm like, we've been married 20 years. It is kind of permanent. So yeah, it's really sweet. It made me happy.
That's awesome.
Very touching.
Yeah.
I mean, Sarah sent us a picture of it being done, and there's this, the face you're making is for the ages.
It hurts. I kept thinking of the article we did about
no anesthetic.
People. Yes, I did. I was like, I kept thinking
Should've gone
that is
painkillers.
genius
Huge mistake.
to not feel anything. So yeah.
And apparently you were sober as well, which seems like a huge
100.
mistake.
And in New Orleans, like really didn't have to be, but yeah.
Well, RJ, how about you, my man?
Have you gotten a tattoo, RJ?
Doing good. I did not get a tattoo, not yet. I had a great Thanksgiving. Saw my brothers and nieces and nephews and sons and friends, and it was really, really, really nice. Yeah, and then Marshall had the flu for a couple of days. That's okay. Jamie has it right now, so I'm probably on deck.
Yep.
But in general, it was great. It was a wonderful Thanksgiving, and back and ready for the Christmas season. Here we go. Like Christmas is 3 weeks from today as we record, which is just insane. And
You didn't mention the most important thing that happened.
Oh, I saw you, Dees. Dees came to see me for like 15 minutes. It was so great.
We literally we just sat outside.
We
chatted. We touched base, and then I kept moving. It's a perfect visit, right?
It was perfect. It was great. Just long enough, but not too long. Thank God.
We had a great time too. Watched a bunch of movies and lots of fires and extended family. We were in Bethesda with my in-laws, and someone told me, I was just reading something about they love having teenagers because you just laugh so much more with them, and I found that to basically be true. I think it's there's a lot of
at them.
You laugh at them,
yes,
but it's a new stage, and I'm choosing to embrace it, and part of that is like we're just going to watch some good movies and really get cozy, as it were. So,
what'd you watch? What were we talking about here?
We watched the movie Attack the Block. I don't know if you've seen Attack the Block, which is it's John Boyega, who was cast in Star Wars because of that movie, and it's just it's like aliens invade North London. And
it's the same guys who did like Hot Fuzz, right? And
one of those guys is in it, but it's a different story.
Okay.
We watched Hacksaw Ridge. We watched Dunkirk. My son is doing like Winston Churchill at school, and so we watched that. That was really it was nice. So this is the episode every year where we do make a fun. Sorry, how do I say this?
You got to keep all of this, Dave.
This is the episode every year where we make our needs known and we ask for support for Mockingbird. You know, those who listen to the Mockingcast might not be aware that Mockingbird has 14 employees, and we do conferences and books, and we have a print magazine and a very active website in addition to this is just one of our podcasts. But we need your help. There's so many things we want to do for next year. Love to turn this officially. We've been posting clips and stuff. Love to make this into the entire Mockingcast into a video every single time. Hoping to update our app. We've got new books coming out, new conferences. New York conference is the April 23rd through 25th. We could do one in Minneapolis next fall. Just a ton happening, but we need people's support. Everything just seems to cost more and more and more, as we know. So we're asking folks to give generously, become a monthly donor. You get a free hat. You get a subscription to the magazine. We'll also send you a keychain if you give. I'm going to read one of the responses we got this year to our work that was particularly powerful. But before I do, you guys want to say anything about fundraising?
I'll make the pitch that I make oftentimes to clergy folk, because I know that we've got quite a few clergy folk. But if you have, access to any sort of extra funds from the church, and this is a helpful podcast for your sermon preparation or Bible study preparation, if it's just kind of kept you going in ministry, to be honest with you, then please make a gift, because Mockingbird needs your support. And I know for myself, I need Mockingbird's support. It's helpful to be reminded of what is good and true and beautiful, and to be able to, and it's very helpful for sermon illustrations, I'm just going to say. So it's worth its weight in gold just for that.
Yeah. I just feel like Mockingbird has changed everything about the way that I live and the way that I'm in relationship with people, living and dead. And certainly I would have known the love of Jesus the way I know the love of Jesus if it weren't for this work. And I know that I'm not alone in that. I know that because every time I'm at a conference, or the emails that you guys send me that are so beautiful, like I hear that over and over and over again. And so if that's how this work has felt to you, then we would love for you to be a part of it and to support it.
Thanks, Sarah. This is Mockingbird's 19th year of operation.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
Crazy is one way. It's surreal. Absurd, God-given. It's so it's a bit of a miracle when I look back on everything. And Sarah's right. And in Charlottesville, when all these people gather, if you listen, you'll hear these stories of what this work, how God has met folks through Mockingbird. Not necessarily they have come to Mockingbird, but Mockingbird has come to them, where the gospel has come to them in this funny form. I feel like we've cultivated a fairly gracious and singular voice in the contentious religious landscape. And I really hope that folks get behind it. Should I read the email, you guys?
Yeah, sure. Read it.
Yeah.
This came to us from Tobias in Hastings on the south coast of England. He said, "Hi, David. Greetings from the UK. I am a devotee of Mockingbird, so just wanted to reach out to say thank you and perhaps share a little encouragement. I often listen to the Mockingcast on my headphones while I walk around my parish. I'm sure folks must think that priest is off his rocker, crying, laughing, and smiling to himself all the time. M-Bird has shaped my ministry in so many ways over these last few years, not the least with all the sermon fodder. Primarily, though, through helping me to continually rediscover new refreshing depths to the grace of God in Christ Jesus. I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving, right? But curiously, it's one that we seem to sideline all too easily. I am grateful to God for the witness of Mockingbird to bring folks back on track, myself included, to the main thing. Here's a little story of the relief of grace for you that I encountered this week. I was celebrating the Eucharist at the acute mental health ward at the hospital in my parish yesterday. We had 10 people on the list who had expressed an interest in attending, but only one turned up, which isn't unlikely with these folks. But there'd usually be a few more to pad things out and not feel so exposed or vulnerable. Well, this one person shuffled into the room with her support worker, visibly anxious, hands clasped together, not wanting to look me in the eye. I let her choose from a selection of songs to sing, some of which she said she knew. I prayed, and then after a few unglamorous moments of trying to get a phone to sync up with a Bluetooth speaker, we stood and sang a classic, quote, modern hymn from the 80s, Here I Am, Lord. I'm not a particularly good singer. The support worker didn't know the song, and the resident sang so quietly as to be pretty much imperceptible. It was awkward, Just the three of us standing there in this odd room in a secure mental health unit, a trifecta of awkward strangers. But by the time we had sung the last line of the first verse, quote, "All who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save," the resident was sobbing. After we had shared communion and prayed together, we parted ways. She hadn't wanted to talk much. She later told one of the staff that when we had started to sing, she experienced an overwhelming sense of peace, the likes of which she had not felt in a very long time. She said her tears were tears of relief. What a grace that is, and what a grace it is that God would come in a dark place through stilted and clunky means at that. I mean, the fact that that story would come to mind in relation to Mockingbird just blows my mind.
Yeah.
It makes me tear up.
Yeah.
Enough of that. I'll say that we will put the link as to where you can give online. We'll put that in the show notes. And again, thank you, those who have been giving, and we encourage those who haven't to, step out in faith. We'd really appreciate it. Okay, serious stuff on pause. Let's go to our fave of the year, Ellen Cushing, who wrote in The Atlantic a bit of mocking bait, as what I might call it. This is Advent calendars are totally out of control.
Oh my God, yeah.
She says, in 2025, people with even a tenuous relationship to Jesus Christ are nonetheless spending their Decembers counting down the days until his birthday. They are doing this by opening perforated paper doors behind which they are finding just about anything a person can possibly buy. Tea, designer lipstick, wine, weed, chili crisp, cheese, knives, crystals, smoked summer sausage. They're celebrating the season the way it was meant to be, with Keurig cups. Burger King and Kraft Natural Cheese each do an advent calendar, as does Red Bull. Bon Maman, the French jam company, has quadrupled production of its advent calendar since debuting it in 2017.
That one's
and
good.
The calendar still sells out every year. Yeah. Advent calendars have now gone so wide that they're not just for Christmas anymore. Hanukkah and Valentine's Day have both received the Advent calendar treatment. Then she backs up. She says, Advent calendars as mass-marketed products have been around since the early 20th century, when European companies began selling simple paper ones, mostly for children. Their slow march towards secular adult indulgence kicked into warp speed about a decade and a half ago, when beauty companies began putting sample-sized products into unglamorous boxes and marketing them under seasonal names. The idea presented two opportunities at once. The calendars were aimed at loyalists, but also roped in new customers unwilling to spring for a full-size tube of goo that might be persuaded by what they saw as a good deal on 24 petite ones. The calendar's once-a-year nature also allowed companies to create artificial scarcity, drumming up excitement and demand. Most important, they provided nearly a full month of daily exposure to a company and its products. She concludes, everybody loves a small treat, especially one that feels like a deal. More and more, giving gifts has also become something that people are doing for themselves. Most of these are advent calendars or gifts we give ourselves. The season has morphed into a weeks-long festival of consumption, its own liturgical calendar's worth of shopping holidays. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Boxing Day. The Advent calendar began as a form of religious expression. It still is. It's just a different religion.
Listen, Ellen, I think you wrote the piece about Claire's.
Yes.
And I loved that one, girl. It was so good. This I don't like as much. I'm not sure Advent calendars.
No poo-pooing.
It's a little grinchy.
Were ever religious. They started off for kids that were excited about getting presents. Okay? Like, I just don't think there's an Advent calendar that has ever existed that people are like, the Christ child is coming. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the point of an Advent calendar. I mean, to quote a meme I saw probably 3 years ago, people who don't like little treats probably need a little treat. I mean, are my kids annoying now about Advent calendars? Like, did my teenager say to me, like, you told me you would let me pick out my Advent calendar this year. And then you just bought one for me. Yes. Did I research the right Advent calendars for my children? I did. But I'm like, like, people need little treats. Like, I don't know. I can't get on board with this.
I mean, Sarah, you've been on record in the past as a bit of an Advent skeptic, so this is an interesting take.
I just feel like what I don't like, and I have been on record about this, is a man in the pulpit telling me like I need to have more quiet time in this season. Who is like Christian. What I like even less is a secular writer telling me that I need more quiet time this season. Like, I'm like, what? I don't know.
No treats for you.
No treats.
We made the mistake of getting our youngest wanted a silly putty Advent calendar.
Oh, no, Dave.
And,
that was a mistake.
I was not present for that purchase, and my better half is
the fun parent
more gracious than I am. But silly putty, I've had to
say goodbye to your rugs.
Yes.
All I see is it in carpet. That's all I see when people say that.
Completely damaged the
Tell
inside
your
of
dog
the
to get ready for a shave.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, silly putty, what's this doing here? Because I basically was traumatized by how much silly putty got over in our car interior one time.
Yeah.
And I will never get over it. I was like, how could one small thing damage so much so quickly?
30 silly putties or whatever. Yeah.
Anyhow, what are you thinking here, Arj?
I have actually been thinking about this recently, and here's the conclusion that I've reached this Advent. And it started because, I'm in a clergy Facebook group where people were getting all curmudgeon-y about it's not even Thanksgiving and people are already putting out their lights and their Christmas trees and there's Christmas music playing and the blah, blah, blah. We got to stay in Advent. And I'm like, I responded, I was like, guys, everyone right now is horribly anxious, totally stressed out, totally broke, and all they want is a little bit of joy in their life. Can you just lay off, please?
Yeah.
But then I read the first few pages of Fleming Rutledge's Advent book because she loves her some Advent.
It's a beautiful book. Yeah.
And she's thought a lot about it.
Yeah.
But in the intro, Karl Barth said something which I think is true, which he said, the entire Christian life is Advent. Life is Advent.
Yeah.
Because we're always living in between Jesus' first coming and we're looking forward to his second coming. But right now we're living in this dark cruciform place where we're just trusting in what Jesus did once and hoping for what he's going to do in the future and kind of just trying to make it.
Right.
So guess what? All of life is Advent. So why don't we let Advent be Christmas? You know what I mean? If people, and I know, there's 12 days of Christmas. Nobody does that. They open up all their gifts on Christmas.
Yes.
And then they chill out. What we do, we trash the house on Christmas.
Absolutely.
We clean up a little bit. We do nothing at all on Boxing on the 26th. We watch movies and we drink. And then on the 27th, we clean up and we get on with the rest of our lives. So nobody does that. Maybe they will someday. But whenever people want to celebrate Christmas, that's fine. Because it's in one way or another, the joy of Jesus, the grace of Jesus, the gift of Jesus is proclaimed, even if it's silly putty, which is insane. So that's my rant about Advent. What do you guys think? You on board with that?
Double the rants here.
I love this. I think
you're up with it. You're up for that rant?
I think title of ep is just make Advent Christmas, and let's just see the mail we get rolling in.
Yes, all of life is Advent. Good God.
I mean, I don't have strong feelings about Advent.
I have strong feelings about people having strong feelings about Advent.
I feel like it's something that it's easy for me to. I grew up with Advent. It's not glamorous or exciting, and for folks who didn't grow up with the liturgical calendar, it's a hook, it's a way in, and that we need all the ways in we can get for folks who are trying, and that's the thing. In Advent, I always thought when I first saw the Lego Star Wars Advent calendar, I was like, this is pretty cool. Maybe it'll get some people asking about what Advent is and anything to sort of bring people in. I see what she's saying about this. There's the cynicism about companies kind of shoving stuff down your throat and finding this perfect way to be in your life all of a sudden. There's a cynical take on it, and I can see where she's coming from because it does get a little ridiculous. I mean, the Burger King Advent calendar, I talked about that in a sermon recently. A lot of laughs about the most whopperful time of the year that they are advertising over there at the King.
I have so many things I could say about that, though. That is probably not an expensive Advent calendar. And I'm thinking about single parent households and kids that love Burger King. I'm just why do we need to
poo-poo this thing?
Yeah. People, I don't know.
Some preach Christ out of pure motives and some out of selfish ambition. What do I care? In all things, Jesus is proclaimed.
There you go.
Right?
Look at that Christian over here.
Someone once said,
Yeah.
Is that Colossians? I can't remember.
I guess what I'm saying is like I sort of feel Advent schmadvent,
Yeah.
but also if it's something that gets you excited about your faith and interested in God, go for it. So at this point, I'm willing to let the Advent craze be the Advent craze and not have to have too much commentary about it. So and I think it is kind of so there is some creativity. Just like there's that Advent calendar of Die Hard, you know, where Hans Gruber is falling from the Empire State Building every day a little bit further, and you open another thing.
That's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
I mean,
think that
I'm sorry, these were made for you, Dave. Like, there was no
Yeah.
way I was going to be patient with you being against this because this is Little Figurine City now. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
Is there a
I'm-
Garbage Pail Kids Advent
There's
calendar?
we
Was
gotta-
there
we gotta
ever?
get one
I
going for
wonder. It must be
Dave.
out there somewhere. Now you got to get it.
Yeah.
You got to find it.
Yeah, I mean, I got Smurfs behind me as we're talking
Yeah,
right now,
yeah.
so I've got no leg to stand on.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
Ellen finally
back,
has
Ellen.
has a whiff here on the Mocking Cast, but she gets us talking. It's so wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
It was good.
Here's a wonderful piece that was appeared in the New York Times. This was sent to me by my friend Tom Gaynor. Thank you, Tom. It is "The Quest for Perfection is Stunting Our Society." This is written by Jonathan Biss, who's a concert pianist. And he opens up the column saying, quoting Patti Smith. I guess Patti Smith, the rock singer, once said, "As a performer, one has a mission, like John Coltrane, to take your solo out to talk to God." That's her description. She loved John Coltrane. Now, he begins by saying, "Classical musicians are not trained to talk to God. We are trained not to make mistakes. Few of today's classical music performers have written music. Ideally, we strive to be creative in our interpretive work, but primary creation is a thing we've only studied, not experienced. That can lead to paralysis. If you don't understand how something is made, you fear you might deface it merely by engaging with it. The problem is made worse by the vast recorded history that precedes us. Marketers like to use the word definitive to describe venerated recordings, turning them into part of the canon as much as the pieces themselves are canonical, like the definitive recording of Beethoven's Third Symphony. For young musicians, it is tempting to sidestep the complicated work of discovering and internalizing these works, blood and guts and all. It's simpler to declare a specific performance sacrosanct and aim to reproduce it. This fetishization of perfection might not be surprising, but that doesn't make it any less damaging. You cannot learn or grow while trying to appear as if you have everything figured out. You cannot talk to God by trying to avoid doing something wrong. Perfection is stagnation. In fact, true perfection is an illusion, just as true safety is an illusion. Seeking perfection keeps us from exploring even when we sense that we would be happier and more fulfilled if we did so. It makes us live smaller lives and stymies our creativity, both as individuals and as a society. It is the enemy of art. Only when we embrace uncertainty and acknowledge all that we do not and perhaps cannot know. He concludes by saying, "Recently, midway through a chamber music tour, I played a concert in which I felt absolutely connected to the music. This is not an everyday occurrence. That evening, though, something magical happened. I felt that I had found the essence of the pieces I was playing, that they and I were in total alignment, even if the performance was far from perfect. Afterward, I floated on air. I woke the next day with a knot in my stomach. A lifetime in classical music had conditioned me to clamp down, to aim to reproduce everything that had gone so well the night before. I suspected this was impossible. The concert was no longer a source of joy, it was a noose around my neck. Then the colleague I had played with texted me. Last night was special. We have to find the truth of tomorrow. The concert the following day was once again, by any measure, quite imperfect. We erred often, but we sought the truth, and at times we found it. Maybe we talked to God."
I'm in the middle of Madeline Langle's Walking on Water, which is so
What a great
good.
book.
Oh my gosh. Like if you are in the preaching business, the creative business, it's so incredibly moving. But she talks about how there's no such thing as like Christian art and secular art, that all art is divinely inspired and a part of who we are as creation. And it makes me think of how sometimes we try to limit it. And I think that's a journey we have to go through as creative people. Like, certainly, I think now when I do conferences and stuff, and even when I preach, that in the early days, it had to click along and I had to do all these things. And now it's sort of like, what's going to be the magic in the room? So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of beauty in just like letting go and seeing what happens and seeing. I've just felt that God has been so good to me in my creativity. When we lost my parents, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do this again. And honestly, I went on enough antidepressants that for a while I really couldn't. That made it hard for me to feel deeply. And, you know, I pulled back. I mean, I'm still on those, but I pulled back enough that like it was like, oh, there it is. I realized that I could safely let go a little bit of some medication and really feel myself and feel God calling me into creativity again. I don't know.
I love to hear that, Sarah. That's beautiful. And that book, Walking on Water, so good.
So good.
So
I
good.
get that.
You would
yeah.
love it. It's incredible. Yeah.
RJ, what does this piece make you think?
It reminds me, when I was younger, I sang in this choir that we did a concert with Jesse Norman, who was like a sort of, you know who that is?
Yeah.
You know, like a really famous soprano,
Mhm.
you know, big time kind of opera star, maybe 20 years ago or so. And I remember her singing and being sort of surprised because actually she didn't hit every note perfectly.
Mm.
Like she was a little pitchy
Mhm.
in places. And I was like, oh, she's not perfect. But the power of her singing was not her pitch perfection. It was the emotion and that she brought it to, and the communication, and that you felt like she was singing to you, you know, that it was embodied. And it was like she was telling a story. It was the music, but it wasn't the notes. And I remember being kind of struck by that. It makes me also think about my preaching, Sarah, because I now preach 3 times on a Sunday. And when it goes well, the first service is kind of a dress rehearsal in some ways at the 7:30. I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. Let's see what works. Let's see what doesn't. When it goes really well at the 7:30, I almost kind of know it's not going to go so well.
Yeah,
at
we
the
have this
9 and the
conversation
11.
in our house a lot. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh God, that was so good. I
Yeah.
got to do it the same way that I did it at the previous service, you know? And what a prison that is.
Yeah.
And it's hard to sort of let the same thing rip 3 times in a row and just sort of let it be what it is and feel some freedom in it. But then also not to feel like you've got to feel some freedom in it. Dave, I feel like your dad was good at this, and maybe you are too, because he oftentimes didn't have, I mean, basically had what his preparation was like a 3x5 note card with like 4 words on it or something like that. And he just sort of lets it rip and sort of sees where at times, right, and sort of sees where it ends up. And he's also, there's been times where he said, yeah, that talk didn't work. That was a failure. That sermon it fell flat. But he had the courage to just do it and trust God and throw himself on God's mercy, let it be what it was, not have to be perfect. And there was something really beautiful about that. Like,
Yeah.
Dave, how do you approach it when you preach 4 times on the same Sunday when you preach or something?
Yeah, and I preach from notes. I don't preach from a manuscript. It's
Yeah.
partly so that I'm emotionally more present.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I mean, of course, you're performing a little bit. You know where by the time you've done it 4 times, you know where the jokes are.
Yeah.
You know where the pauses are.
Yeah.
Although
But
sometimes I try to tell the same joke at
it doesn't
2 different.
work.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work the second time.
Yeah.
The first time works really well. The
Yeah.
second time it doesn't. It's weird.
Magic. There's a little magic in the room. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't figured this out entirely. I know though that something about creativity is almost always a function of freedom.
Yes.
And that when we recorded a Brother Zoll episode about creativity, we basically just ended up talking about freedom and like how do you get free? That's what Rick Rubin's book is all about. That's what Brian Eno's new book is about. That's really what Walking on Water is about. It's all about this sort of playful attitude that you cultivate towards what you're doing. And I think the grace of God really does engender a way of being in the world that is playful. We don't have to get it 100% right. And it's funny that Patti Smith was the one who he quotes at the beginning, because I'll never forget, a few years ago when Bob Dylan was given the Nobel Prize for Literature, he of course didn't go, and she went in his stead, and she was singing A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall, and she like forgot the words. And she stopped at the very beginning and says, I'm so sorry. I'm just really nervous. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then she started singing again, but it elevated the performance like so much more. All of a sudden you're rooting for her, but also when she does get there, something's been overcome, but
Mm.
also you could see how much it means. I don't know. It was such a moment, a human moment that punctured the perfected quality that sometimes, like especially award show performances can have. I really appreciated it. So
I think for me, I think I used to confuse urgency with perfection.
Mm.
And because there's definitely a feeling of urgency especially when I'm preaching. I have moments of
Mhm.
it when I'm doing longer talks, but definitely when I'm preaching, because it's like such a solid, I preach for about 12 minutes anywhere I go. And it's like, and I used to confuse that. And it's not a feeling I can conjure at all. It definitely is like I get into a pulpit and there's something about the Holy Spirit that it just feels urgent, but it doesn't. Like I used to think that meant perfection, and that is actually not what it means at all. It means urgency, maybe the way that like a 3-year-old is trying to tell you what snack they want, right? It's this like beautiful, very human longing, desperation, or something to like get this good word across to people and to hear it for yourself. And so, of course, there's going to be mistakes in that. It's such a uniquely human experience. So I think about that feeling of urgency a lot sometimes.
yeah, I guess it's not. I don't want urgency and excellence to be antithetical to one another or something like that. But I that's interesting, Sarah. Urgency and perfection are not the same
I don't
thing.
think I don't think urgency is antithetical at all to it being good. But like, I think there's
Yeah,
something of the urgency that makes it good. But yeah, I used to confuse that with it having to be perfect, and I don't make that mistake anymore. It's like,
yeah,
if it's urgent, it might get a little messy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Are you guys?
Sorry.
Are you perfectionists by nature?
Me?
Yes.
Me too, totally.
I don't.
I am. I mean, I was thinking
don't
about
think
this
so.
today because, I'm fascinated in this as works for artists, because today is the day that Guns N' Roses just released 2 new tracks for the first time in like 3 years,
Wow.
and
Wow.
they are the quintessential band for whom they got it perfect their first time out with Appetite for
Yeah.
Destruction,
Mm.
and that has been a noose
It's
around
like
their
Christopher
necks.
Cross, same thing. Christopher
Yeah,
Cross.
but it is like Christopher. Hey,
I know.
don't
I
knock the
love
yacht
Christopher
rock.
Cross. I love Christopher. I thought you were not going to lie. I love Christopher
I'm
Cross.
into it, but I
Oh,
think
so
that what
good.
you see is when it comes to creativity, success on a mammoth level ends up being death, because it
Yes.
means you're constantly trying to repeat it or reproduce it
Yes.
or
Yeah.
better it. And so what happened with this incredibly creative group, it's been a mammoth struggle for this band. I'm talking about Axl Rose mainly, and I'm an Axl Rose truther here. Like, to get anything out, and you could just feel the struggle in every sort of word. It's got to be perfect, and
Mm.
it's almost become like a study in something like that. But well, let's go to the next piece. We got some more things to talk about here. This is from Heather Havrileski. Ask Polly. We talk about sometimes. She's written an article called "Can You Stop?" She says this: for the past 3 weeks, I've been painting the interior walls of my house. This morning, I have about 10 hours of work I want to complete on the house painting, but I also have several deadlines, and my family is coming over for an early dinner. As I was just starting my column, my mom came into the room and told me she was planning to make hot dogs for dinner because it would be simple and easy. Sure, that's great, I said. Get some banana peppers and fresh jalapenos. My mom said, do we need mustard? Let me check the fridge. I stopped walking on my treadmill to go look in the fridge with her. A few minutes later, my mother started telling me about a voice message she got from a friend. This friend was overthinking everything, being anxious, going on and on about something that was simple. That's just how this person was, but it was too bad because it made making plans more difficult. My mom was seated and I was standing. My tea was on my treadmill desk. My laptop was open and the essay I was working on was waiting there. I'm rushing through almost everything these days in order to get my house ready. I want to move back in as soon as possible. They're renovating, I guess. But the painting estimate from the contractor was exorbitant, and painting is the one thing I can do to speed it up. So this morning, when my mom started checking her mustard supplies, I almost entered crisis mode, thinking, I can't do this right now. But I felt so glad that I'd made a conscious effort to sit and talk, even though I was panicking about my day. She says, miracle is a strong word for sitting in the living room talking to your mom about her friend. The truth is that all of the hard things in my life are also miracles. Living with my mom, who just moved in, I guess, has helped us to figure out a lot about each other that we didn't know before. I thought I knew everything, and maybe she thought so too, but it's been a slow learning process, and our relationship has grown stronger and also more relaxed and comfortable as a result. It hasn't been a smooth road, but at the moment, smooth roads look overrated to me. It's very hard to stop. It's not a skill I'm very good at. I've actively chosen a life that's low on interruptions. So I'm trying to cultivate an appreciation for being interrupted, slowed down, or diverted. I want to be attuned to the people around me. I don't want to miss any of these small miracles. I don't want to speed through the hard parts because I might skip over something amazing along the way. The weirdest, tiniest things, the oddest moments, the most casual conversations are sometimes the biggest miracles of all. Thank you, Heather. I mean, with interruption, I am a person that I think people perceive that they don't want to interrupt. I wonder if I emanate that aura sometimes, not only to coworkers but to my children. And there is a lot, that like any person in middle age, there's a lot I have to do. But it's true that interruption is often the place of grace in our lives. And the reason I grabbed this article is because I think of Christmas as celebrating an interruption. Like it's the greatest interruption of all. And this time where we're planning and trying to execute perfectly and get everything together, and the holly jolly women of Advent, Sarah, it's like, or the holly jolly women of Christmas. What a shame it would be to miss the interruptions, because that seems to be how God like creeps in. He comes disguised to us as interruptions. I like this. Her mother wanting to talk about mustard while she's got 15 million things to do is actually the best thing that happened to her that day. But maybe I'm extrapolating too much. What do you guys think here?
It made me think of Harvey, the movie Harvey. Did I talk about this already on the podcast?
I don't think so. Perfect. Talk about a perfect movie.
Yeah, perfect movie. I'd never seen it, and I finally watched it a few months ago. And if you haven't seen it, you have to see it. But Elwood P. Dowd, played by Jimmy Stewart, is just infinitely interruptible and never in a hurry. And there's a really wonderful moment where he kind of is talking about what Harvey has done for him. And Harvey is this, invisible 6'2" puka, which is kind of like this mythical Irish creature that looks like a rabbit, kind of basically a rabbit. And he said that Harvey can take you anywhere you want to go, and you can stay as long as you like and do whatever you want. And when you get back, not a moment will have passed. And I love that, because I really do believe this, that our culture is so tyrannically on time. But time is the most fungible, plastic kind of. Time is the weirdest thing, because you'll have a day when you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time, and you'll stress out about it. And the more you stress out about it, the less time there seems to be. And the more you just go with it, the more time seems to just open up to you. And suddenly there's plenty of time to do everything that needs to happen. So I feel like what Jimmy Stewart says about Harvey and how he controls, he's really talking, he's talking about God, he's talking about Jesus, and Elwood is sort of a vision of the almost perfectly sanctified Christian life in a lot of ways. But I find that to be true, that when I'm not stressed out about time and I'm willing to be interrupted, and I'm willing to make that hospital visit that I didn't have planned, or willing to take the visitor into the office, suddenly there's plenty of time. There's just plenty of time. It's like God is just opening it up and allowing there to be space for whatever needs to be accomplished. And Jesus he's always open to interruptions. He's like 3 days late for
He's
Lazarus,
interrupted constantly. Yeah.
Constantly. And he's fine with it. Totally fine with it. So that's my thought. Just that we think time is linear and sort of regular, but it's not. It's that God is in control of time. He can stretch it as long as we need it to be stretched. I've often felt that way on Sunday mornings when I'm preparing my sermon. It's like there's plenty of time. It's always just enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if some of that has come with age, because I've had the same thought lately, where a weekend that was jam-packed in Advent, even 5-6 years ago, was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get through this? And now it's like, oh, like this is all fun stuff. There's going to be enough time to do all the things we need to do to get ready. Like, I think the older I get, and maybe the more we've been through, but I'm just like, if God wants it to be this way, it's going to be this way. And
the Lord will provide.
I just have to kind of stop thinking I have that much control over the situation. I mean, it's not unlike what we were talking about before, with preaching. And I do want to say shout out to the manuscript preachers. You guys are both like, oh, I just use an index card. I love a manuscript, but also, like, you know, I've written a sermon the night before when I've had to. I've worked on things the morning of. I haven't quite ridden on the edge of my seat the way that these boys do, but like I that's because I'm a mom and someone's gonna throw up. But
totally true.
It's totally true. I learned it in
It's all
seminary. I was like, somebody's gonna throw up. You gotta do it early. But yeah, I think there's like whimsy, which is a word we've talked a lot about, and just saying like, yeah, if God wants us to be this way, it's going to be this way. And I actually, that for us has been a good word. It just in ministry in general, it's like, you know, you may be in a church and you may feel like this is the vision, but also like, you don't know if this is the vision. Like, you know, like, it's like, what is God? And and like part of like, being, you know, in ministry is like recognizing like that God's going to do what God wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ministry is interruption. I mean, we have
100%.
this funny charade, and it's necessary in a lot of ways, where we plan out our fall. We have these program guides. We say this is what's going to happen, and then you look back. The story of that season was never had almost anything to do with the plans you made.
Yeah.
It has to do with all of the interruptions. It has to do with the deaths and the births and the news events and the amazing, wild things that happen. You know, and the beautiful, you know, Norwegian gospel singers who show up one day. It's like,
Dave,
that is
so good.
It's so, I think it's really true, but also it's not just ministry is interruption, like life is interruption.
Life is interruption. Yeah.
I wonder, I think my dad once said that like, if you're hold too tight to control, life often feels like an assault on your sense of control.
Yes.
And so if you're sort of inhabiting like a godless universe, that's a crazy making prospect, to be in a world of chaos that is assaulting your sense of control that you don't really have. Then there's the faithful approach, which at least at its best, it's acquiescence, it's surrender, it's saying, not my will, but thine. And because thine will is going to happen anyway, you know, it's,
Man, there was such a great thing. The Pope was asked a question on his airplane like yesterday, and he was talking about just briefly about what it was like to realize that he might be Pope. And he was like, well, I realize that life is not under my control, but it is under God's control. And that's the only thing that I really can trust in at all. And when it became clear this might happen, I was like, well, okay, here we go. You know, like,
yeah.
I'm just going to continue to trust you because I don't really have any other option. It was so beautiful. It was so perfect.
Well, it means life becomes a surprise party rather than a held for a curated wedding where people keep getting in the way with their humanity.
And the couple gets
life
divorced.
is what happens while you're busy making other plans.
That's John Lennon.
Yeah, I do want to say, I know we don't have a lot of Catholic listeners, but I did hear this morning that the Vatican, whoever is in charge, has decided that they're not going to have female deacons. And I did think about the Pope and how he will have to deal with like sadness around that, and like just like what a huge calling that is, you know, just to live in that faithfulness of like, he never knows what's going to happen the next day. And it's just incredible by contrast. And you guys know, I only say good things about Yale Divinity School, but I really very strongly, I mean, the joke that is a true thing is that when I was in seminary there, it felt like they were training us to be Woody Allen rabbis. You know, it felt like they were training us to sit in an office with lots of books, with the door shut, that we were going to read all day, you know, that we could yell at any children that bothered us, that we could, you know. And, you know, when I look at my seminary class, 30 to 40 people in the class, there's like maybe 5 or 6 of us that are still in ordained ministry. And I think about how we were not at all prepared to be interrupted. You know, like, I mean, I was just in Josh's church office yesterday and the preschool lets out. And like those kids, like, I mean, kids are always obsessed with the priest. And so like they, you know, like they're like, they want to come in his office and like there's candy in there. And like one of them calls him like Josh the man or something, like it's just, it's constant, incredible, miraculous interruption. And if you don't want that, don't go into ministry. And the other thing it makes me think of is like how I've probably gotten this honestly from Melina Smith, but I've read it in a lot of places that like when you see your teenagers, like you have to smile at them and make eye contact with them. Like stop what you're doing when they come into a room, smile at them, make eye contact with them, be a little funny, like be willing to be interrupted because that's like where relationship gets in.
That's where it gets in. I know. I wish it weren't the case, but it's so true.
Yeah.
100%.
It's so true. And this is funny.
I mean, a planned family dinner out, you might as well be a game night, like, but like an interruption, where you want to tell me about how your speakers for your computer are on sale on Amazon. Yeah. I mean yes, let's do that,
Yeah. I have a son who's constantly interrupting me with like interesting facts about Radiohead. And
yes.
This is the son that the Lord hath made.
Yeah,
I'm so
God favored
you.
Yeah.
And the fact that I would be, I'm in the middle of.
Right.
There's a really funny article fascinating article that CJ highlighted in the Weekender about the Batman effect. This is wild. That is about being interrupted in a funny way. There's a recent study out of Italy which uncovered a surprising way to encourage kindness in public. The study monitored 138 rides on the Milan metro and found that people were far more likely to offer their seat to a visibly pregnant woman if someone else nearby was dressed as Batman. The abstract is hilarious, but also spiritually quite insightful. This is the abstract. Passengers were significantly more likely to offer their seat when Batman was present, like 70 to 30%. Notably, 44% of those who offered their seat in the experimental condition reported not even seeing Batman. These findings suggest that unexpected events can promote pro-sociality even without conscious awareness, with implications for encouraging kindness in public settings. The study points toward a theory of behavioral disruption where novelty has a way of shaking us out of our autopilot mentality and encouraging us to take better notice of our surroundings. In doing so, we become more sensitive to the needs of those around us. Francesco Pagnini, who's the professor behind the study, wrote, "The sudden appearance of something unexpected, Batman, disrupts the predictability of everyday life and forces people to be present, breaking free from autopilot." I mean, I think that's about the coolest Advent-related article I could imagine. The sudden appearance of something unexpected, which happens to promote pro-sociality. Any thoughts on the Batman effect before we get to the final piece here?
I'm like, Batman?
I wonder what it would happen if they just had a priest there, like in his clericals.
I do too.
You know what I mean? Like if it's that type of thing, because I know priests who wear their collars all the time. I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
But apparently they get into a lot of, they're willing to be interrupted. Let's say that. They're more willing to be interrupted than I am. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but there's, to me, when I read this, I think not only because I love Batman so much, but because even if people aren't consciously aware of it, there's an effect it has on them. I think that some of the hope of Advent is not that we direct everyone's eyes perfectly toward the manger and the baby, but to trust that even if we're completely sunk in our own controlling, uninterrupted plans, that there's still a shot that unexpected occurrence can jolt us in some way or promote kindness or change things in some positive way. But it also makes me think of like some of the people I love most in the world and who I want to be around the most are those who are happy to be interrupted.
Oh yeah.
I think here about like Jacob Smith, who's always, hey, I'll go get dumplings, or Will McDavid, who's about to start working for Mockingbird again. He's always up to sort of be interrupted.
Yeah.
And my wife is like that, and I think it's one of the most wonderful qualities, and I'm drawn to it because I don't have it, and I find there to be something present tense, something Harvey like. Well, it reminds me of that movie, about the Holy Fool. starring Paul Rudd, My Idiot Brother. There's
Mm.
something very sanctified about
Mhm.
that.
Or Yes Man with Jim
Jim,
Carrey.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to triple down on Advent here with this last piece. It's by the wonderful Will Fagan in Birmingham, wrote, "The Advent has a purpose. Candle lighting isn't it." This is what he writes. "The long runway to Christmas is a thing, and it's needed. It draws us out of the everyday humdrum of meetings, commutes, and home life. We need the buildup. We need the parties. We need the anticipation. We need the nervousness about seeing your in-laws. We need a space for life to not look like the first week of October or the third Saturday in April. There seems to be one or two times a year when people buy back into Christianity or search for it to begin with. Advent is one of these times. I've seen it treated like a more jolly version of Lent, trading holly for ash and festive cocktails for sobriety. We go through the rituals of lighting candles, reading devotionals, opening calendars. It's all well intentioned, and I'm all for it. I'm a card carrying Advent observer, but I also want to caution us here because at the end of the day, lighting candles at dinner isn't the point. In those one or two times a year when we do buy back into our faith, there's usually a reason why we're knocking on the door. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. We turn up because there are usually one or two things in our lives we'd like to see changed, and we hope that Christianity can help deal with that endeavor. And more than that, we hope that God will hear our longings. And if all that Christianity seems to offer are candles, calendars, and well-meaning devotionals, well, that's pretty dry toast. It's no secret that people have been longing for more since the beginning. The people of Babel longed to climb to heaven. Noah longed for dry land. Moses longed for a promised land. When we turn to the New Testament, one has to wonder what their longings were. Specifically, I mean, they'd certainly rather have a Hebrew king rule them rather than a Roman. Most of all, though, I bet they just wanted God himself to be near them again. They wanted God to speak to them as the prophets had of old. They wanted God to send them the anointed one that they had been promised for hundreds of years. They wanted to know that the maker of heaven and earth, their God, had their back. I'm glad Advent is an on-ramp for people, because by December, any sort of self-improvement plan we made for the year has likely gone by the wayside, along with attempts to reboot it. This is also a lonely time of year, particularly if what you want is a person with whom to share your life, or if life hasn't gone the way you thought it would. We get to the final stretch of the year tired of ourselves, our baggage, our neuroses, our subtle reminders that we're not the people that we want to be. What we're after then is the real thing. We're after the real thing that has real power, real substance, who sees our real souls, knows our real thoughts, what we've done and haven't done, and isn't afraid of any of it. We're after the real thing that can make dry bones live. And if he can do that, then surely he can handle what we've got going on. If we think we need to buy back into God so he'll buy back into us, we're wrong. God's already all in. In the words of St. Paul, he is actually not far from each one of us. This theme of longing keeps coming up. And
I
it's
know,
one,
isn't that funny?
Sarah, I mean, after you spoke about it in Charlottesville, I keep hearing it everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think of it like, what is it that, what am I longing for? And I don't know how to answer that question right now, except for to say I'm not longing for more words about God or more pictures of God. Even I'm longing for God. Like I'm longing
Yeah.
for the power and presence of God in my life, the transforming love of the Holy Spirit, the forgiveness of sins. That's not just assertions, you know. He's sort of saying Advent can be a great way into people, but what it's really in for is the longing that they have for a God who is longing for them or has already met them somehow. I don't want to put too many words in Will's mouth, but where are you guys with this piece or with what it brings up for you?
I mean, I do, you know, I'm still wrestling with, and it's like so much a present in my preaching and teaching right now, just this idea of the difference between, you know, faith and longing. And that faith is something we have a lot of control over, even though we don't. But faith feels like something we have control over, and longing is like beyond our control. And I can't remember if I quoted this last time on the podcast because I've said it so much lately. I feel like I could say it again that, you know, Jason Micheli said in that article, like it's the one about the casting out an evil
the
spirit.
exorcism.
Yeah. You don't have to believe in Jesus, but can you just believe Jesus? Yeah, that this, and I love the idea that Advent is a way in for people. And I think that longing is something we should be talking more about in the church, because that is something everyone feels. I mean, I don't want to give anybody an action item, but when I think about Christmas Day, I'm already thinking about, okay, who can we have over that's single? And I think for a lot of us that come, we've got kids, we've got a spouse, we've got whatever. I think we forget that for a lot of us, a Christmas Day by ourselves is in our future. Like, think about how many older people we know who they're the last ones left. And maybe that year their kids go to the other spouse's family. And like, it feels like such a tender and hard time for maybe us to be a little bit Advent Batman ourselves and say, hey, come over and we're going to cook a lot of food and there'll be some mimosas. And for me, that feels like a very Christian thing that happens this time of year. I don't know.
Bring your Advent calendar. We'll burn them all together.
Yes. Maybe it's your
Yeah.
last day and you've gotten the jam or the wine one and we can crack it open. Like, I don't know. I don't want to give people assignments, but you know what I mean? Like, it's such a
Totally.
season of longing. And I was just talking to a colleague yesterday, and she's not married, and she's like, I'm still trying to find out what I'm going to do. And I've had really hard Christmases before. And I was immediately like, come over. Like, shit will be everywhere. We'll be in our pajamas. I'll hand you some strudel, like.
Yeah, there's no like Galentine's Day equivalent for Christmas.
No.
It's like
No.
People don't think
just
that way.
It's piercingly hard for so many of us. But I think
Sometimes-
it can be piercingly lonely.
and you're just alone with your longing. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, Sarah, you say that faith and longing are so different things. Sometimes faith feels something we have to summon. I never feel like I have to summon longing.
No.
It's there,
It's always there.
and I wish it weren't there
Yeah.
sometimes, but it's an indication. I mean, C.S. Lewis, whoever, always talked about if we long for something the world cannot provide, that's because we're longing for another world. That's a rough paraphrasing, but there's something about that longing that we can that's almost trustworthy as to where it's pointing. And Advent is a time, if it's a time of longing, let's not just, the longing isn't the point, it's what's being longed for, which is the point. And let's not divorce the two. It's a very pastoral approach, though, you're taking. I don't think it's an assignment at all. But RJ, you too will be alone one day on Christmas. How does that make you feel?
Oh, RJ's definitely going to die first.
Yeah.
I hope.
We're sorry. You looked like you had something important to
Jamie's
say.
hoping she go. We go back and forth. We're like, I'm going first. No, I'm going first. Talking about longing, it made me think. I mean, again, sorry to be the Bible guy, but
No, I love. We need
Rom-
that. RJ.
Romans 8. Romans 8. And we who are the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we await the adoption of our bodies, sort of the redemption of our bodies, the birthing into eternal life. And I feel that. I always feel a little bit like a Debbie Downer when I say things like, life is good, but it ain't that good. And anytime Jesus wants to come back, like, I'm here for it.
Right.
I always say this time of year, I'm like, preferably before I have to decide what to buy my wife for Christmas, because that stresses me out. Once we get past Christmas, before my taxes are due.
Yeah.
That's when I want Jesus to come back. So as soon as possible, I'm groaning for that. In this world, I think what I'm groaning for, I mean, beyond just the normal, like, rest and peace and like that stuff, I long to see God showing up in other people's lives. And I was actually talking with someone in our church this morning who had who wrote me the most incredible note recently about sort of what God is doing in her life. And I said to her, so much of the time, like, ministry can feel a little bit disembodied. You preach these sermons, you teach these Bible studies, you make these hospital visits, you write these emails, whatever. But it's like, what does it mean? And then every so often you see someone whose life has really been like transformed by God showing up, and in a really deeply authentic, truth-telling, no bullshit kind of way, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, like this is real. This is
Well,
this is
that's
like
all you find in the rooms of recovery, I think.
Yeah.
By the way,
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It must be said, but you do find it at churches, especially. I mean,
Yeah.
I see it all the time. It reminds me of something you were saying. Reminds me of my colleague and friend Amanda McMillan is preaching this Sunday, and her tagline is, "You think you want Christmas, but what you actually want is the second coming."
Yes, that's totally true.
Yeah.
That's
That's why
exactly
Christmas
what I
Day is
want.
very disappointing.
It is. You actually what you think you want Christmas, but what you actually want is the second coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want every tear to be wiped away, the wrongs to be made right, and you want God near, like
Yes.
God, not just
Emmanuel,
God with us, but
God with us.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
And like God bless my kids, because instead of all that, they get like a sweaty perimenopausal mom, like openly weeping and a little bit drunk by 11 a.m. Oh god.
But
amazing.
at least
sweaty, just you know?
at least they don't have to add cancer.
That's true.
To that list, Sarah.
That's true.
So,
Praise God. Yes.
Praise God for that, and
Yeah.
praise God for the two of you. Thanks for being here this week. I hope it goes well the rest of this Advent. We'll regroup one more time and sort of talk about the end of the year. And again, just reminder to folks, if you want to respond to that opening plea, I'll have that link in the show notes. But until then, happy Christmas, Merry Advent, whatever sort of holly jolly version of Lent you need to celebrate right now. We're here for it, and we next time you open that Advent calendar, that perforated window, think of us.
Yeah. Think of us.
Just kidding. Think of what's coming, what you're actually longing for.
Coming next year, the Mockingbird Advent Calendar.
Gotta do it. We gotta
There you
do
go.
it. Okay.
Ooh.
All of our budget problems will be solved.
Yes.
We're done.
We're
got
doing
it.
an
Got
Advent
it.
calendar. Okay, bye,
All right,
you guys.
Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Remember, you can find us on the web at www.mbird.com. And we'd always love to hear from you at info@mbird.com. Audio production for the Mockingcast is provided by TJ Hester. And if you like what you've heard, please drop over to iTunes and leave us a rating or review. Until next time.